zone, picked off. Intercepted by Mike Edwards. Blitz off the edge. Hurts throws and the pass is through the hands and incomplete. And it's up high and it's muffed. Rager could not haul it in. Bucks think they have it.
January 16th, 2022 is a date that all Eagles fans would really like to forget. A Tom Brady-led team absolutely decimating a woeful squad that squeaked its way into the playoffs with an inexperienced quarterback having one of the worst games of his life. From the outside looking in as an NFL fan, it looks like a playoff blowout with one team looking far superior over the other. For me, when I watched this game, I already knew the outcome before the game even started. What made me happy about watching the Eagles get beat down on national television was the optimism for the future. How this hot mess of an organization that last year was at one point 3-6 and on the verge of being eliminated from playoff contention rallied together with a strong running game and late season stout defense to make it back to the wild card. You can argue that those teams the Eagles beat last year were full of injuries and also had not so great quarterbacks as well. But the way the past few seasons has been going for the Birds in terms of injury woes, it was a breath of fresh air to be on that other side of the coin. It's not to say that the Eagles weren't dealing with injury problems of their own, most notably with guys like Brandon Graham suffering a torn Achilles in only the second game of the season. Needless to say, I was still proud of how much they overcame to get to this point. And not just because the NFL was being greedy by adding another extra wildcard game to make it a super wildcard weekend. I mean, the NFL, the whole Shield in general, they wouldn't ever do something like that to add more revenue. I mean, it's kind of obvious though that they were thinking about one thing, and that was, well, money! When I first made my video about why this team intrigued me last year, part of me was hoping that the Eagles would surpass my expectations of a 7-10 record and surprise people by making the playoffs. Our expectations as a fan base were really low from the season before, which honestly was kind of refreshing, especially since we were going back to having full crowds and just wanted to kick back, relax, and enjoy the upcoming season. Thankfully, this team surpassed my expectations with a 9-8 record, so it was slightly off from what I predicted. The whole NFL season in 2021 was one of the most insane and nonsensical in recent memory. Nothing about last year made any sense at all. The freaking Bengals made it to the Super Bowl. The Bengals! 2021 was clearly drunk and needed to go home. So yeah, the Eagles did fairly well, all things considered, and had a decent amount of cap space to make some moves and improve the team as a whole. And that's when this offseason began. Howie Roseman began his rebuild and restructure of this team on day one of the NFL free agency period by bringing in a much-needed pass rusher in Hassan Reddick, a man who is coming off a season with double-digit sack numbers, who started his career off slow but has dramatically improved in his time with the Arizona Cardinals and Carolina Panthers. It also helps the local fan base know that he played his college ball over at Temple. He can be both an edge and Sam type player, hence why he is listed as a quote-unquote weapon on his Twitter handle. Then they added another wide receiver to the list in Zach Pascal. From what I've been hearing about in training camp, he has been noted to do a lot of red zone receptions, so he can really be a threat down there. Plus, his connections with Coach Nick Sirianni really helps out in this case. Think of him as more of a productive JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Even the Seahawks didn't want him. Seriously, trying to convert JJ Arcega-Whiteside to be a tight end is like trying to convince me to buy an NFT, whatever the hell those things are. Then the Eagles decided to give this fan base a heart attack by releasing Fletcher Cox and then re-signing him to a lower term deal, which was really odd, but okay, whatever. Another low-key signing happened with acquiring Kazir White from the Chargers, which made a lot of those fans, at least the ones that are still left over, thanks a lot Spanos, quite upset. He accumulated a lot of tackles and was overall a solid piece to that Charger defense. That team also making a lot of quality moves this offseason and also releasing one of the best schedule videos in human existence. It was fire, seriously, go check that out. Then they also, for whatever reason, signed this track star named Devin Allen, who could still potentially make this team as a special teams player. I know he's on the practice squad right now, but I would love to see him do some kickoff and punt returns with that kind of speed. Obviously, he would have a better punt return net than Jalen Reagor. Look, I know people are hard on Jalen Reagor. I've been one of those people in the past. And to be fair, this is probably the last chance for him in his third year in the NFL to show us what he's got. Nelson Agholor started to pull it together in his third year, so maybe the same can be said for Jalen Reagor? Hopefully? Maybe? Well, it turns out we have some late breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently now Jalen Reagor has indeed been traded to the Vikings. Oh my god, are you serious? Oh, the freaking irony. The team that drafted him before Justin Jefferson, and now he gets traded to the team that Justin Jefferson's on. Well, at least Howie Roseman is the best at making the best out of a bad situation that he created. But seriously, this trade was much needed. Jalen Reagor definitely needed a fresh new start. He's your problem now, Minnesota. Have fun with that. So it was a low-key, somewhat quiet offseason at the moment for this team. And that's when the draft happened. The Eagles moved up 2 spots in the draft to the number 13 pick to acquire defensive tackle Jordan Davis from Georgia. This guy is a certified freak. Athlete, that is. He did not really play a lot of snaps during his time with Georgia and that historically good defense, but his size and presence forces offenses to game plan around him. He has all the tools necessary for him to be a legit problem in the pros, if of course he can maintain his weight and work on his skills a bit more to improve at the NFL level. I was definitely quite intrigued by this pick, even with some of the people online wanting Kyle Hamilton over this guy. I did really prefer Jordan Davis a little bit more over Kyle Hamilton, especially since the D-line was ranked second to last in terms of getting sacks last season. This pick also verifies Howie's vision that does make sense for any era of football, how it all starts in the trenches. Football games are usually won and lost in that area, and adding a presence like Jordan Davis can really help with getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, which of course takes the pressure off the secondary to make stops. It's one of the reasons why we did so well back in 2017, getting a bunch of pressure, creating turnovers, strip sacks, the whole 9 yards. So even though we are entering in a new era of fast, high scoring football, there are still some older ideas and techniques that still hold up even in today's game. Part of the reason we became the #1 rushing team last year was because of our O-line. I figured as the draft was going on, a lot of receivers I would have liked were being taken off the board one by one. We gotta give Jalen Hurts some more toys to play with, if you know what I mean. Not those kind of toys, you sick perverts. There were still some options at number 18 with this pick though. And that's when Howie Roseman dropped a nuke.
Wait! No. Are you kidding me right now? No! We just got AJ Brown! Holy shit! Oh my god.
The Eagles traded the number 18 and number 101 pick to the Titans in exchange for one of the top young wide receivers going today. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you all the phenomenal AJ Brown. A 1,000 plus yard receiver who time and time again has proven to be one of the hottest young talents out there and will be getting paid all the money. I'm talking about a $100 million contract with $57 million of that guaranteed. It also helps significantly that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown have been longtime friends. So Jalen did quite a nice job recruiting AJ to Philly. Everyone and their mother lost their collective minds once this trade was announced. The Eagles haven't had this kind of signing since Alshon Jeffrey a few years back, or even this kind of player since the Terrell Owens days. They finally have a #1 wideout that can take a lot of the pressure off Devontae Smith. And with an emerging Quez Watkins as well, I feel a lot more confident than I did a few years ago with our wide receiver group. On night 2, the Birds beefed up their offensive line by adding Cam Jurgens, a center from Nebraska who is the heir apparent to Jason Kelce whenever he decides to hang up his cleats. Jason Kelce himself even helped out with making this selection. He really likes the tangibles that this kid has and saw a lot of himself in Cam. So if he likes the pick, then I like the pick. Later on in the draft, a potential player that I wanted earlier kept sliding and no one was picking him up. This guy was like Aaron Rodgers in the green room, just waiting and waiting and waiting. Thankfully, the Eagles did end up selecting the Kobe Dean with the 83rd overall pick. I do not care at all that this guy is considered undersized or potentially has a pectoral injury that might cause concern. This kid is a smart and efficient player you need on your team. He was a vocal leader on that Georgia defense who excels with open field tackling and reading what an offense is going to do. And yes, I know he is going to be kind of a concern with that injury, but say for instance something happens during the season, which, you know, with football things like that happen. We could just rest him and have him come back stronger next season. Think of him like the Eagles version of Joel Embiid. We also double dipped with another linebacker from Kansas of all schools with Kieran Johnson and a backup tight end named Grant Calcaterra from SMU. And that was pretty much it. Short, sweet, and to the point with this year's draft. By the way, I just want to give a special shout out to my man Gio the podcaster for basically speaking this whole thing into existence and saving our franchise.
Wide receivers and linebackers, please, Howie, for the love of God, get us some linebackers.
So yeah, the draft was over and the team was starting to look a lot better. But Howie Roseman was not done yet. Let's go ahead and steal James Bradberry from the Giants and sign him on a 1-year deal. Yes, I know, the old classic 1-year cornerback signing thing that we do with the Eagles. Yeah, it's become kind of our thing nowadays. But James Bradberry has shown a lot of potential, so this could work out. He was one of the best players on that Giants defense. So I'm really excited to see him complement Darius Slay and have us have actually 2 competent starting corners on this team. The only real concern with this team was the safety position, but someone like a Marcus Epps isn't really that bad of an option. Still a concern though, but have no fear. CJ Gardner-Johnson is here. In a trade with the Saints, the Eagles addressed the safety position with a young hybrid corner with a lot of upside. He has been used in the safety position as well and is a huge upgrade to the defensive backs on this team. A true disruptor and one of the biggest instigators in the league today. The guy's coverage numbers have improved dramatically ever since he came in and plays with a passion and swagger that a city like Philly loves to see. The last time we got a safety from the Saints was a man named Malcolm Jenkins. It turned out pretty well, all things considered. It shows how a Super Bowl winning GM uses a previous 2017 move by improving the roster as a whole, with a quarterback on a cheap rookie deal. It worked back then, and Howie is hoping that lightning can strike twice. Look, I know I've been hard on Howie Roseman in the past, and I do definitely deserve to take the L on some of those things that I said back in previous videos. I was definitely a lot more critical on people like Howie and Jeffrey and just the entire team in general the past few years. No one likes to be wrong about anything. Trust me, neither do I. It's a bad problem society has in itself. I mean, you want to just stick to one take and you just pray that you're not wrong, otherwise you look like a real moron and stuff like that. I was just merely frustrated with Howie the past few seasons because I wanted to have the team improve after our Super Bowl win just to show that we could still really contend. But you cannot do anything like that when literally the entire roster is injured and you're depending on practice squad players to help out with the production. Howie was just waiting patiently for an offseason like this. He's definitely not perfect, and I'm not going to harp too much on the draft pick since it's pretty much a crapshoot anyways. He tends to spend his money and make trades during the free agency periods to improve the team. That's always been his bread and butter. When Howie has a chance to redeem himself though, trust me, he redeems himself. This offseason is a prime example of that. He took what was once a lingering roster with a bunch of holes and question marks and turned it into one of the deepest rosters on paper. My impatient ass was just being stupid, especially during a time when Jeffrey Lurie has had a winning percentage ever since purchasing ownership of the Eagles back in '94. They always knew how to improve the team. It's just when they start getting involved with the football process instead of just, letting the coaches do their own thing is when I start to have the problem and concerns with them. They still have proven that they can be a top owner / GM in the NFL. One of the main qualities that I do notice in Howie, other than his mastery of managing cap space when the team needs, which he is also really well at, he excels significantly at that, is his ability to rebound and make the team better. Sure, he might screw up on a draft pick or two or trade for a player that no one wants, but a lot of GMs in sports make those kind of moves. He really does try to put the Eagles in the best position possible to win, and it's not his fault that the team was riddled with injuries the past few seasons. I think another thing that I noticed too with Howie Roseman is something that Nick Sirianni said in one of his first press conferences: accountability and ownership. By trading away players like JJ Arcega-Whiteside and doing his best to improve the roster, Howie Roseman is basically admitting that he was wrong about some of these picks and showing that overall growth as a GM. Now, again, he can still be frustrating at times, but he still is a lot better than most GMs in the NFL. I think for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's always never enough. They always have to add something, or they have to do something different with the squad. I do expect for this team to make a push forward, and not just the team itself, but for the entire coaching staff and organization as a whole to produce at a higher level. Nick Sirianni is a guy that I know likes to run a pass-heavy style of offense. The problem with that is it becomes too one-dimensional, as proven with some of the earlier games that the Birds played at the beginning of last season. The very first game against the Falcons is what I am expecting and hoping for more of in terms of the play calling. A healthy balance of running and passing that keeps defenses on their toes, especially with utilizing an RPO style of play under Jalen Hurts. Sometimes it's best to not fix what ain't broke. He should really stop with the goofy t-shirts though. Other than that, I do really believe Nick has good control over the team and building a chemistry where he can connect with his players on a personal level. They're outside playing basketball and stuff like that. It seems a little out of context, but sometimes thinking outside the box and doing those sort of things really helps build the chemistry of a team. I sort of wish I could say the same for Jonathan Gannon, but I still do worry a bit with him at the helm. Thankfully, he got quite a number of improved players to work with, so for him, there's not much of an excuse this year. I'm not expecting him to be a blitzing maniac. He's probably going to go with his zone defense. I just don't want him to get passive against really good quarterbacks, where it seems like this defense got truly exposed last year. If he can bring more pressure and mix up the coverages, he can hopefully have this defense at the top tier aspect of the NFL. Though the jury is still out on that regard. I saw this article on bleedinggreennation.com that I will also leave a link for down below in the description. It's a really good article about defenses moving to a too high shell and how it spreads out with the offensive style of the NFL and just the way it is nowadays with the league with everyone scoring. Basically summing up the article is that I feel like Jonathan Gannon is going to give up a lot of yards with this defense. But with mixing up the coverages, I feel like he doesn't have to blitz all the time. I feel like with much better players, he can utilize them more to mix up the coverages. Because again, back in 2017, one of the key differences that made that team so well was the turnover ratio that they had. By causing havoc with that, not just with the pass rush, but with the coverages and just taking advantage of opportunities given to them, they gave their offense the best positions possible to succeed. I know, such a revolutionary concept, but it feels like Jonathan Gannon was a little bit passive just because of the talent he was surrounded with. He was a little afraid to go aggressive, but now with much better talent, I am intrigued to see what he can do with that. The running game should still be as dominant as it was last year with guys like Miles Sanders leading the helm. Clearly one of the most underrated running backs out there, and a guy who's been doing quite a bit of talking to the media during the offseason. Why would you say such a thing, Miles? Despite this, and also because I tend to lean more towards superstitions a little, I do admire the confidence he brings in hopes that maybe, just maybe, this can finally be the breakout year. We say it every year with this guy, and yet for some reason he has a problem with a hamstring or another injury, and it causes him to take a step back. He's got all the talent in the world, he just needs to show it and get his ass into that end zone. Also, not fumbling the ball a lot helps. He will also be complemented with other running backs like Philadelphia's favorite son, Boston Scott, and my guy, Kenny Gainwell, aka Big 14.
Big 14, what the fuck going on? Hey.
Everything on paper about this team should be improved, which leads us to the main person who I believe will show the most improvement. The big elephant in the room. I said in my last video that Jalen Hurts wasn't the best quarterback ever, but he also wasn't the worst. He definitely deserved another chance to show that he can be a quality starter in the NFL. He's been somewhat up and down during training camp and preseason, but part of that is expected for a 24-year-old quarterback entering just his second full season as a starter. He still has somewhat of those tendencies to roll out to the right and hold on to the ball for far too long, but he has been getting a lot better with that. It's a slow process, but I still believe in the kid. And yes, I'm aware that he does not have an arm like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. I think it has less to do with the power and the accuracy, and more just about the timing that he needs with the team. Once he can get that going, he can really be like a Lamar Jackson type player. It truly is a make or break year for Jalen, and to be fair, it might not work out this year. And you know what? That's okay. Say he doesn't play well. The Eagles still have 2 first-round picks in next year's draft to either trade for a veteran or draft their quarterback of the future. It's enough pressure for anyone to handle, let alone a 24-year-old guy who's been on a whirlwind journey already in college and pro ball so far. But if there is one person who can handle that pressure, it's Jalen Hurts. Call it a gut reaction or just me being stupid, but I have good faith in this guy to lead this team pretty far if he allows himself to let the game come to him and not rush things out there. I truly am more positive about this upcoming season. I mean, how can you not be excited with all the additions that this team has made? I guess the best term to describe how I'm feeling about the 2022 Eagles season is cautiously optimistic. I have a lot of confidence in this team. Then I'm not saying that one word that begins with an S and the other word that begins with a B. I'm not going that far yet because we haven't played a game yet, but on paper, looking at this roster, I am getting those sort of vibes. Not the 2017 vibes, okay? Not the Vince Young thing. All right, seriously, Miles, have we not learned anything from the past 10 years? And I'm just so excited to watch them. I've been waiting for this moment since the AJ Brown trade happened at the draft. February 4th, 2023 will be 5 years since the Eagles won their very first Super Bowl. And I remember saying, all I wanted to see from the Eagles was them win one Super Bowl, and that part of my life would have been complete. If they won another Super Bowl, hey, that's great. That's just another cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. And then something kind of changed over time. I'm usually a very patient person with a lot of things, but when it came to the Eagles, I started getting more frustrated with them and more impatient. I did not want this to become just another one-time thing. I did not want to become another one-hit wonder. There's been this thing that's been lingering over my head, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say it, but I'm gonna come out and say it anyway.
Say it with your chest!
There are still some people out there, not me, by the way, I would never say something like this, but there are still some people out there who believe that for whatever reason, that the Super Bowl win against the Patriots was a fluke. I know, crazy, right? And it got me thinking, what if we did that again? I feel like Tyrone Bigum's out here. Y'all got any more than them Super Bowl rings? I will kinda miss last year's team because there were no expectations and we could just enjoy football. Now we almost have to have these sort of expectations because of the moves that we made. And you know what? I believe that this team can meet those expectations. So now, I will set those goals higher for this team. My record prediction is 12-5. And for the Eagles to make it all the way to the NFC Championship game. And we'll see what happens from there. Now watch as this ages poorly like most of my other sports takes. Anyway, go Birds.